Welcome to Bards and Barrels, the podcast for Dungeons & Dragons players new and old. We're just a few 30-something dads who play D&D on the regular. I'm Ross Struess, and I'm joined by my friends and co-hosts Brett Miller and Phil Boone. We'll be exploring the world of Dungeons & Dragons in each episode, sharing our experiences, offering tips and advice for those who play and run this classic game. Don't miss out on us discussing everything from character creation to combat mechanics and even delving into some of the lore behind the game. We'll also be sharing some of our funniest and most memorable moments from our own D&D campaigns. So whether you're a new player just starting out or a seasoned veteran looking to reminisce about your own adventures or just get a new perspective on things, Bards and Barrels has something for everyone. So sit back, grab a drink, and join us as we roll for initiative and embark on this epic adventure. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about how we got into playing the game of Dungeons & Dragons. Phil, when did you start your relationship with D&D, like the first time? Like, when did you start playing? How did you get involved?
Yeah, good question. So, let's see. I think officially I probably started playing. Oh, gosh. It's probably been about 6-ish years ago, 6 or 7 years. Right around then. I was living in Salt Lake City. Kind of got interested. Ultimately, I remember there's just a weird, distinct memory that sticks out to me. Like when I was a kid, my parents had Thanksgiving at their house, and I remember two of my cousins playing this card game on a table. And lo and behold, years later, I learned that it was Magic the Gathering. Kind of got into it while we were living in Salt Lake for a few years. And was a gateway almost into D&D. One of the guys that plays in our other campaign, Matt, he was living in Salt Lake City when I was as well, and we would go to this wing place. Half of the building was this wing joint, and the other half of the building was a game store. So we would get wings and then kind of go and check out the game store too.
Yes, like an odd combination.
Every city needs one of those.
Yes, 100%.
Wings and games,
100%. Because you could you could go in the game store, start a game, take a bathroom break, head over to the other side and get a drink at the bar, and then head back in and keep playing. So you could always do that because they shared a bathroom, in the hallway.
That's glorious.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic.
Oh my god!
That's how we got into it, right? So
sure.
We'd go for wings and naturally spent time in the game store and. People were playing Magic, so we started doing that, and then people were playing D&D as well. It's okay, well, I have an interest in that, and some people at work kind of started to talk about it. I'm like, oh, okay. One of the guys at work was talking about a campaign that he was putting together. I'm like, hey, if you're looking for people to play, I'm interested. I've never played before, but I would love to learn how to play. And ultimately, that's how I got into it. One of the guys that I worked with is the one that ran the initial campaign.
Nice. So, just to back up just a little bit, going to Magic the Gathering. So that's kind of what started the whole, kicked off everything.
Yeah.
And when was that in relation to was that how far before you moved to Salt Lake City?
Oh, man, if I think back to when that game was, remembering what house that occurred in, it would have been before I was even in high school. Okay. Is when I remember seeing that, because my parents didn't really approve of anything that when I was at that age. They let us dabble in a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But I had no idea what I was watching. And, I have some Magic cards now, and it's kind of funny to think about, if I would have been playing at that time, probably what those cards would be worth today.
Oh,
and I'm sure my cousins don't have their cards anymore, most likely. But it's just kind of funny to think about.
So it's actually really funny you mentioned that, because I'll get to my story later, how I got involved in D&D. But in high school, I played Magic the Gathering as well, and somewhere that box exists with the Legends. Is it the Legends of Kamigawa? And it's there were all kinds of packs, and I bought packs everywhere we went. And okay, super nerdy fact, I was on the debate team, but there were 3 or 4 people on the debate team that would play Magic, and so it's they got me into it, because it's when you weren't in a debate session, we were playing Magic.
Sure.
And so that's how I got involved in it.
My God, you guys are nerds.
Quiz Bowl, anyone? Quiz Bowl?
I did Quiz Bowl.
Oh yeah.
Yep, damn right.
Join
the club. Nerdy is the new cool, man.
That's right.
And we have obviously we play D&D now. We've accepted it, but
absolutely
yes. So I will say, one of the things that I think is really interesting, do you ever notice how, like, when you talk about playing D&D now, how many closet D&D players there are?
Oh, 100%.
And I have a perfect example of this. So I'm in like the leadership group here in our town, right? And we were at a meeting this last week, and we were eating lunch, and the guy that was sitting next to me, who is a firefighter, I won't say anything more than that because I don't want to give him out. But we were talking, and I was like, "Oh, I'm working on this podcast with my friends to talk about D&D," and he's like, "Oh, you play D&D?" I was like, "Well, yes, I do. Do you play D&D?" And he's like, "I recently got into it," and I'm like, I have found so many people that I'll just like be like, "Hey, I play D&D," and I don't care if people think I'm nerdy. It's fine. I accept that. So I'll tell people I play all the time, and then they'll be like, "Well, I play too."
Oh, yeah.
And I'll be like, I never would have expected that from you, but how many people I found blows my mind sometimes.
It's their dirty little secret.
It is.
Totally, it is.
I've had neighbors, too, and I'm like, and I feel bad afterwards because I'm like, I never would have guessed that you play D&D. You know, it's like that reverse of like, you don't look like a nerd. Like, what are you doing? You play D&D. But it's so much more mainstream, I feel like, than it used to be.
For sure, yes.
And
I mean,
COVID influenced that a little bit.
Yes.
Well, and there's so much like mass media that is connected to D&D now, or like references D&D. I mean, you obviously get Stranger Things, you get some of the big podcasts like Critical Role that are really, really big, really popular. People that maybe haven't even played, though, are interested in D&D, but haven't played, but are interested in it, are knowledgeable of D&D, or are interested in learning more and getting into the game.
Yeah, it's almost become a part of pop culture enough that people are interested, even if they've never played. They want to know.
And it's one of those things. Is like if you like Harry Potter, if you like Lord of the Rings, you found the pathway to get into this. Like if you want to be part of that story, you've already set yourself down that path to probably play D&D.
Oh yeah,
embrace the nerddom.
Exactly. You know. It's like that you're waiting to cross that threshold and find somebody. Oh, like one of my buddies now is a DM. Now I'm going to get involved. It's like I want to try it.
You know what we got to do, Ross? We got to dig out that box and go through some of those cards and see how many of them point to monsters in the Monsters Manual.
We totally
That's what we should do.
Question is, I got to find that box. I know where my Yu-Gi-Oh cards are. Magic somewhere, but I'm not entirely sure where.
You guys are
that's homework before the next episode. So Brett, how did
bring cards?
What's that?
We can just bring cards, so when Brett's not here, we can play.
We can just play, yeah, because he shows up late all the time.
I am not interested at all. So I come from a small town that had no trading cards of any sort. Like that was beyond nerdy. Like there was no trading cards of any sort. So like we didn't have any of it. So I ended up getting into D&D like 2019. So pre-pandemic, a little ways before. My what would you call them? Gateway games would be something like we started playing Pandemic and then Pandemic Legacy, Star Wars, and then I don't even know who. Our friend, one of our friends was like, "Hey, I would really be interested in trying D&D. Are you guys interested?" I have no idea what that's about, but we've been playing all these other fun games. Sure, let's keep it going. Let's switch it up.
Right.
So Ross and I got into it kind of that same type of way. We joined together in that first campaign. Well, actually, you started before I did because just with some stuff going on, I wasn't able to join that first one. But we quickly got into it, and then I've been mostly a player since. I've started dabbling in some DMing, but that's still fairly new for me.
So you probably don't remember this, but so our stories do run very parallel to each other. Thank you. I was thinking tangential. I'm like, that's not right. We've been using
that word's been thrown out there a lot.
Yeah, it's been in there a lot tonight. Yes, absolutely. So I got started with the Rick and Morty campaign, and Brett's absolutely right. That came from conversation we had with some mutual friends, and we had played. I think the Star Wars tabletop game was probably the one that catapulted us there because it was very much a here's your character, play your character, know how to play your character kind of thing.
Yes.
It was very railroaded in the sense that there wasn't much leeway in the story, but it was still you play this character, here's the map, here's the situation kind of thing. But that led to, it was like this Christmas 2019, right before the pandemic, where they had given me for Christmas the Rick and Morty dungeon Dungeons and Dragons set, and it's basically just a dungeon, and they've created characters based off.
Oh, you had it?
Yes, it's right here.
Oh.
So we played that, and we had played through most of that with my wife, his wife, and then at the end, do you remember you
I
came,
joined for one random
you did
session.
the very last one, and I DM'd. That was my first experience DMing. Was that night, like reading quick through like the last 2 rooms and then running them. And then we were like, oh, this is really cool. We want to get into this. And then the first campaign we picked was Curse of Strahd. Now, in retrospect, probably not the greatest idea because that is an extremely complex story.
Yeah.
For both first-time DMs and first-time players, even though it's meant for first-level characters through like 12th level, but still,
It's almost a different style. It really is.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean it's not your typical meet up in a tavern
It's
and
horror.
then go fight a dragon.
Yeah, it
Yes, and the thing about like horror stories is like it's hard to set that tone, and if you're a DM who hasn't done that before, it's hard to get into that.
Yeah.
And even we had a DM switch partially through the campaign, and regardless of who was running it, it was very hard to set that tone through that.
I will say, for you getting that box set of Rick and Morty for Christmas or whatever it was, if it wasn't Rick and Morty, I don't know that we would have gotten into it. If it was just a straight starter set of D&D, I don't think we would have joined. I don't think you would have had the same group of people jump into it.
No.
If it wasn't Rick and Morty.
I think you're absolutely right.
There was a lot of those people that avid Rick and Morty followers or watchers that were interested in it because of Rick and Morty.
Right. And there was no character building as part of that, right?
Sure,
So it's
you
like
just pick one of the prefab characters.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Rick was the DM, of course, but it's like you
Nice.
could play as any of the other characters essentially, and they were various classes. I'm trying to think of who was what. I don't really remember. But
That's awesome. I know the first campaign that I jumped into, it was a homebrew. I'm very certain. I don't remember any of it being from a published work.
You went straight into a homebrew?
Yeah. And I was so new to D&D, right? I couldn't tell you what kind of character I played. I don't remember his name or what class or anything about it. All I remember is there were a bunch of undead and they killed us, and then suddenly, like later on in the campaign, we were facing our own characters.
Oh.
wow.
Like that's what we met up with at some point. So
Ah,
those are like the
crazy.
very small pieces that I remember, but yeah, it was very intense, but it was fun. I mean, it kept me interested, and then I slowly like got into more and more published works and like listened. That's when I started getting into more podcasts and listening to actual play podcasts. And that's when I truly like really got hooked. Like, yeah, I want to do this like for good, right? I want to learn to DM. I want to be able to bring people into this. I want to teach people how to play this.
Right.
That's what did it for me.
And so at some point through this whole arc with Brett and I, we had started the Curse of Strahd. There was a DM switch in there, and then I think all of us had kids at some point and through that.
Campaign killers.
And it derailed the entire thing. But that's kind of where our stories diverged, because then I basically took a break and didn't play again until the 3 of us started playing together. But you started playing with Phil at one
Yep,
point,
I
because
did.
I would get messages like you couldn't come play Fortnite or whatever we were playing because you were having a D&D session. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, we started playing. What campaign? The
Giants Tower.
Storm King's Thunder.
Yeah, Storm King's
Yeah.
Thunder. Yeah, we started playing a Storm King's Thunder campaign with one of the guys that 2 of the guys we play with now, Matt and Isaac, and then a couple other guys from out in Baltimore when I was there. But that one ended up kind of fizzling out schedule-wise, which tends to happen. But that's what I appreciate about the group we have now is, regardless of kind of the curveballs that life has thrown, this group's been strong. So we've been able to keep those.
I will say I think that's been the funnest part. So the 3 of us plus Matt and Isaac have been going through Descent into Avernus. And it's like we come from broken campaigns, right?
Yeah.
That didn't make it all the way through. And it's like the people who really wanted to play, not that other people don't want to play, but it's like the ones who really wanted to keep going came together. It's made a really fun campaign.
Yeah, I agree.
Life is hard.
Yes.
Scheduling
Oh my
is
God.
hard.
Yes. And I think that's true of anybody that plays D&D out there. I mean, it's
Oh,
even
yeah.
harder if you try to get together, because like I'm trying to run Curse of Strahd for you guys, plus some like family of mine that I've gotten involved, and it's like scheduling sucks. And
Yeah.
virtual tabletops have made that so much better, but it still is hard to get together and find. It's still trying to deal with 4, 5, 6 people and get everybody in the same place all at once, and that's not easy anymore.
It's not. No, I agree with you.
So looking down the road here a little bit, one of the things that we're going to get into, so now that we've talked about our background a little bit, we're going to get into talking about races and classes. We talked about this a little bit in the first episode, but I think that's the first thing we're really going to dive into. We'll flesh out how we want to do that, if whether that's going to be every other episode, and we're going to mix in some things in between, like how to build characters and things like that.
We got to review the D&D movie after we've seen it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we got to throw stuff like that in too. Yes.
As we're filming this, I'm reading the what is it even called? The official movie prequel comic.
What are your first thoughts?
It's interesting. I'm trying, like, some of the pictures in the book they don't necessarily look like the people in the movie.
Oh, who they cast for it?
Yeah, so it's trying to figure out, okay, which person is which person. So I need to, like, look at some pictures and compare to make sure I know which one's which. But so far, I'm excited. I'm getting more excited about the movie.
Awesome.
Yes, I think we'll probably have not a bonus episode, but we'll have an extra episode once we see that movie and talk just about the movie. I think one of the things that's for me has been the most encouraging was the trailer where they're talking to the dead guy.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of antics that would totally happen in a game session.
Oh,
And I think that's why I laugh so hard about that. Because if you have a DM like Phil who's on point, it's like every time somebody asks a question, he answers, and all of a sudden you missed your opportunity or something like that. It's that kind of crap. I say crap, but I appreciate DMs like that. That's just hilarious. And I think that's what I want out of this movie most, is to feel like D&D, not just be D&D-esque.
I think in true form, when we go see that, I think we need to go together, but we need to go to like a Brewvies or something where we can drink and watch the movie at the same
yes.
time. I feel like that's the only
That's a must.
appropriate way to watch it.
Can
I
we
agree.
take in our own mugs? Like, have a fancy...
Sure, as long as we don't get caught.
We'll release this one after we've seen
Yeah, I was going to say, now that we've said that on the show.
Everybody's got a flask, right?
Right. Okay, so final thoughts about either the D&D movie or us getting involved in D&D, guys?
I don't think so. I mean, it's fun for me to hear your guys' story and kind of see the overlap and just sort of how that differentiates, right? Even though you guys kind of got involved in the same campaign to begin with, even seeing how your stories are different, just with what life's thrown at you. It's always interesting to see how people kind of get into it and what they latch onto. So it's fun.
Yeah, it's interesting because all three of us have only been into it for relatively a few years.
Yeah.
So it's not like we've been doing this from the 80s. We are not experts. So feel free to let us know of any feedback of things we maybe got wrong, or how you've seen D&D play out in your experiences. Let us know. We're still learning. We're trying to share what we've learned and what we've picked up along the way. We'd love to hear about your experiences as well.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see everybody in a couple weeks on the next episode. So for now, we'll see you later.